You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Oh, hello, Shaun Preece. How are you today?
I'm sorry, is that Mrs. Doubtfire? That was so
Hello,
Scottish.
dear.
I am beautiful. Thank you, Stephen Scott. How are you?
I am beautiful as well.
Oh.
My wife hates when I do that, by the way. She says, you stop being Shaun. You're not Shaun.
Yes.
Stop pretending to be Shaun. I'm like, okay, fine.
Basically,
Sorry.
she hates Shaun and any reminders of Shaun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite all right.
Mhm.
It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday.
Yes. Thank you.
Where were you yesterday?
Well,
I'm not being, horrible or anything, but where were you?
well, let's just say,
Yes.
I did toot this out to the nation.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we had some technical issues in my little studio.
Let me
here.
just stop you there. We had some technical issues. Stephen
Well,
Scott.
we did, because it affected, the ability to record a show. So suddenly it's your issue as well. And listen, I'm sure your studio, I have a feeling after I tell you what I've done,
Yes.
I think your studio is going to have some, in quotes, technical difficulties coming soon as well. So look, as those of you, the eagle-eyed and eagle-eared amongst you will probably have noticed, Access Tech Live is no more. And as a result of that, the setup that I have here at home, it was kind of set up around the TV show. So what you were watching on YouTube, for example, was kind of the setup. The same setup I was using on TV. But since that's now gone, I will take a moment to remember the wonderful.
Yeah, last post. Yeah.
That's enough. So what's happening now is I don't need that big fancy setup. So I thought, okay, do you know what? Let's just chill out a little bit here.
Oh.
Let's cool things down. Let's get rid of the broadcast second desk.
Oh.
Let's just be I'm going to be a regular guy. I'm going to have one desk.
Okay, dude. That sounds rad. Let's hang on.
Thanks, buddy.
Are you saying now you're not on that laddie-da TV that you're going cash? This is
I'm
like,
one of you.
You're one of us now, are you? Oh, casual Wednesday. Okay, so
That's right.
So the TV set has gone, and now
Yes.
Well, describe. Let's see, casual Stephen.
Well, casual Stephen, so really nothing's changed in terms of me, because I'm still wearing the same top. I will say this is what happens when you get into the world of television and they tell you that you're not allowed to wear anything with a brand on it. You basically buy T-shirts,
Yes.
20 of the same. And of course, being blind, you want to make sure that, it's roughly the same colour each time. So you just buy 20 of the same thing.
Beautiful.
So that's not changed. So I haven't changed. In fact, Mr. F asked me yesterday, what's the new look? Is it Brad Pitt? And I said, more like armpit, to be perfectly honest. But very casual.
The jokes haven't changed.
No, that's absolutely true. So in my little office here, basically you're seeing a wider view of my office from where I was sitting before, because essentially I've come forward to where the desk is at the window. So I'm kind of sitting here, and in my background now you might spot a television which is mounted on the wall. You might see a little desk, the desk I was actually sitting at before. You might even spot... and those of you who are sighted watching this or low vision watching this on YouTube might spot a few of the accoutrements that I have added in the background. I've dotted a few things around,
Like
including yes, I'll tell
Don't
you,
leave me out.
my Squeezy Penguin. Do you remember Squeezy Penguin back in the day?
No, not at all.
Oh, come on. Your brain
I know.
is rubbish. Can we get an upgrade for Shaun and his brain?
Oh, no, wait, I do.
Uh-huh.
Yes, okay.
Squeezy Penguin, remember?
Can you squeeze it,
Had
please?
stressful days. And it doesn't make any noise when you. It's not
you've
a dog
broken it.
toy.
Well done.
No, it's not a dog toy. You don't squeak. It doesn't go squeak squeak. It just goes.
What?
I guess.
Wow,
I don't know.
that must
I guess
relieve the stress.
Air removed. Well, it works for me, put it that way. Trust me, I use it a lot around you. So what else have I got back there? I've got a little clay version, I suppose you could call it, of my little dog Dougal. Remember Dougal?
Oh, that's
please tell me
beautiful.
you remember him.
I thought for one terrible second you were going to say my head. It was like some Lionel Richie video.
Oh, I could do that. We could add that in next. Don't give me ideas, because you get a lot on Etsy these days.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
So yeah, it's lovely actually. So we got this years ago. So Dougal's a part of the frame as well. What else have we got back there? A couple of bottles with AMI and double tap on them. Collector's editions, I believe.
Yes, available nowhere.
Nowhere, that's right. And what else have we got by there? Oh, actually, I've got it here on the desk right now beside me, because, of course, Bob is still very much part of proceedings.
God bless you, Bob the plant.
That's right. Well, Bob has been busy over the past couple of weeks, it would appear, while I've been focusing on my studio. Baby Bobs have arrived. Baby Bobs.
How did that happen? Wait, answer that, actually.
Well, basically, when Mummy and Daddy love each other very much.
Why have you got Baby Bobs?
Baby Bobs are here. I found them. They were in a box.
Are they plastic Baby Bobs? Oh, of course.
Do you think?
Yes. Okay. Very nice. So we got a family of Bob the plants.
Well, I think this one needs a name. I sense a new hashtag. Bob's Babies. Name Bob's Babies.
Oh, dear.
I think my wife is ready to get me taken away at this point.
I'm all for it. Anyway.
She's not a fan of Bob. I will just put that out there.
She's not a fan of Bob?
She's not a fan of Bob.
Not a fan
she
of
says,
Bob.
Why have you got
not
that
a fan
stupid
of Shaun.
plant? I said, that's Bob. And I wasn't sure she was talking about you or the plant. It's this annoying person who just gets in the way all the time.
Yes. Well done,
yes.
Stephen Scott. You're very casual.
Yes, I feel good. I feel good. I feel relaxed. I feel good like I knew I would.
I'm sensing a new Stephen Scott here. A change, if you will. A more casual double tap. Wow.
That's
Can we get any more casual?
If this was any more casual, it'd be off the air. And who knows?
Don't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just love
God
you.
bless you, Mr. F.
He's still here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk tech. I know, shocking, right? Well, it's a big day today.
Breaking news.
Why?
Is it breaking news? So the iPad Mini is launched today.
We talked about that already.
You can go and get your hands on. Well, you can go get hands on. Go feel up an iPad.
Are you
Mini.
going to go and get hands on with the iPad Mini?
Do you know what? Of all the iPads that I own, and I don't use any of them, I would really love to get hands on with an iPad Mini because I think it was the best iPad of all. Actually, I think there's so many cool things about it.
It's a very nice form factor. Touch ID in there. Is it USB-C? This one?
Yes, this one's USB-C, which is kind of nice.
That's always nice. I've got to say, I'm loving the USB-C. It's so nice.
A17 Pro chip. We mentioned this. It's the same one that was in the 15 Pro last year.
Yes, so it will be Apple Intelligence ready.
Now we know what's happened. So what happened was they got rid of the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max. So what they've done is they've gutted the inside of the 15s.
Yes.
And then they've just shoehorned that and just stick it into those iPad Minis. That's what they did. That's exactly what happened.
Well done.
Tim Cook said, take all that and just put all the innards of that into that.
Stop it, Stephen. You're blinding me with science.
I don't like to get too technical.
Yes, obviously. What's the price point on these? Do we know?
I did tell you last time we were on. I want to say I want to say 650 Canadian starting price, bear in mind, because of course you get different storage options, starting at 128 gig, going all the way up to 512 gig, and also the option for cellular and Wi-Fi as well.
Not bad.
So
I would actually like one of these. I think, you know what?
I think you'd like it.
I don't really care about storage on one of these devices. Again, I see this more as a household device. This is something I would just leave around the house and let anyone use.
But you said yourself the other day when we were talking about this, the problem is that they don't have these profiles yet. If they had profiles, it would really make it perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, I said it, so of course I agree. But, you know, with iOS 18 and the ability to lock and hide apps, like I could lock out the ability for anyone just to jump on, if I set up for my Apple ID, to jump on my mail, for example, or my messages, or I could lock people out of that and they can just pick it up and watch Netflix and watch
that's very true.
anything in browse the web in Safari. So, yeah, that does help a little bit, but I don't know why that's been such a stalling point, that setting up multiple Apple IDs on one device, because I think it'd be really useful, especially on an iPad.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's happening today. So tell us if you've decided to go down the route of getting yourself one. It's I will say, again, it's that physical thing for me as well, because I find the iPads are just really hard to hold for long periods of time.
Drop them on your face. Yes, I've done that.
And I think a lot of people struggle with this because the build of them, they're so thin that if you're lying in bed and you're holding it up, after a while that is going to get, irritating and potentially, like you say, you start falling asleep and it slips out your fingers and falls on your face.
To be fair, though, isn't that on us? I mean, put the thing down before you fall asleep and get whacked in the nose.
But no one does that. No one does. No. Of course they don't. They sit there and wait till it falls on their face, and then of course,
it's funny though.
That wake up.
You mentioned we both said we'd like to. This sounds like a good device, right? Nice size, powerful, Touch ID for those who absolutely love that. But you mentioned you've got a few iPads already that never get touched.
Yeah, never touched them.
Why?
I think it's because I still haven't quite got used to... I tend to try and use the iPad with a keyboard because I just prefer using it that way. It's just easier to navigate.
Yes.
And I still haven't quite got to grips. And the problem is that you then sit there thinking, well, hang on, I can just do this on my phone. So I really do just pick up the phone instead. I mean, it's the ultimate portable device compared to an iPad, right? So it's good. I think if I had a particular reason for the iPad, I'd stick with it. I'd go with it. But I just don't have one. I don't have a need for it. I don't have a use case because everything I would do on the...
Sorry, I sounded like your mum.
I mean, well, speaking of my mum, this is perfect for her, right? Because it's just a really nice device. Also, again, I mean, I will say it's a little bit more expensive than the entry-level iPad, which is bigger. I mean, it's a larger size screen than the entry level. This iPad mini is 8.3 inches versus the 9.7 inches of the iPad Air. So, and I think the same for the iPad. Did they still do the regular? I get mixed up with the range.
I've totally forgotten and lost track. But there's like an entry-level iPad, right, which is actually really good value.
Yeah. Did they still do that, though? I thought maybe they moved that away.
I have no idea.
Focused that on the Air. Anyway, iPad mini's out. If you're going to get one, then let us know. I might go and pick one up and see what I think.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of intrigued by it. Good. Well, the colours this year were pretty terrible.
Well, you've got a few. Just send it over to me. I'll have a look at it for you. I don't mind.
Fine. There we go. Problem solved. You are such a hero. So Aira's announced a new app called ASL. Aira ASL. That's, of course, is the visual interpreting service. Well, they're getting into interpretation for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. So they say that they've identified a significant gap. Yes, I do not read press releases. In the availability of on-demand American Sign Language interpreting, specifically in public environments, such as retail stores, airports, and banks. Many existing services require deaf individuals to schedule interpreters in advance or seek out signage or information, making it difficult to obtain interpreting services when unplanned communication access is needed. Furthermore, outdated technology creates additional barriers that limit seamless access to interpreting services. So this is where Aira have stepped in. So, just like we as blind people can benefit from the visual interpreting service through our own devices. The deaf community now has its solution, which is, as they call it, immediate, reliable, and easy to access. The new offering will have no effect on the experience for explorers using Aira for visual interpreting. So I guess it will be a different bunch of people working on that. But I think that's pretty cool. And I think we've often said, one thing about Aira is it's a great service, but the price has to come down overall.
Yes.
How do you achieve that? Well, maybe this is one way to essentially open this service up to more people. I like that. I like the sound of this.
I think this is amazing news. I'm quite surprised, we didn't have a breaking news in front of this because this is massive. They've often, when talking about their service for us anyway, they've often compared it to sign language interpretation in the past.
Yeah.
And now they've actually gone down that route. Now, I've got to say, I don't know enough about that world of gaining access to sign language on demand to know how, even though the pricing of this or the availability, how people go about this anyway, or is this the first time this kind of service is available? I honestly don't know, but this sounds like a really good idea to me.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you start to sort of dive into the world of other disabilities outside of our own or blindness, you tend to discover very quickly how much is also lacking there. I think about wheelchair access and I think about, interpreter access. That's not something. You go into a cafe and you want to order something and you want to use sign language or you use sign language. That's going to be almost impossible, right? I mean, the chances of meeting someone who does speak sign language in that environment is going to be so low, so small. And this must be, I can only say it must be a real issue for many people who are deaf, to the extent that a service like this coming along could be a complete game changer for their lives. I mean, we know things are improving in terms of, there's often technological solutions brought to this. There's apps that are being developed. I remember seeing a couple when we were in Vienna, I think last year for the Zero Project conference. There was an app on show, which was kind of showing this ability to sign to a phone, and then the phone would be able to turn that into text and then, communicate with someone. And then equally, that person could speak, and it would be, turned back into sign language for the individual, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's nothing quite like human connection. And, Aira themselves and Be My Eyes, for example, are two companies that have really shown, despite all the advances in technology, the real power is human connection. And I think the way that both these companies are fusing together the latest technology and human connection, I think is brilliant, and it's meaningful, and it actually impacts people in a really good way. So I say more power to Aira for doing it. We are going to be speaking to them very soon.
Good.
We've had the team reach out to us to come on, so we'll be speaking to them next week. I think they've got some other announcements to share as well. So I'm holding back that breaking news jingle, Shaun, Preece.
Okay, keep it safe.
But that's a big story. Yeah, that's just because I
well
forgot
done,
to press
Aira,
it.
by
But
the
I'll
way.
just go with that.
I think that's a really cool service.
Yeah, agreed. I want to mention Glide as well, because, of course, our good friends over at Glide, Amos Miller and the team are doing a fantastic job. We've been talking about it quite a bit. We'll come back to that topic, of course. Loads of you emailing in with your thoughts on this and sending us WhatsApp messages and voicemails as well. We will get to those, but I want to just mention as well that they have a number of upcoming in-person demo days. So you'll get the chance to actually get hands-on with this. In fact, today, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, that's the place to be. In partnership with the statewide services and outreach of the Ohio Deaf and Blind Communication Services, the location of which is I'm not going into too much detail because it's very local, but Worthington Community Center, if you're aware of that, in Columbus, Ohio, get yourself there to get hands-on today with the Glide, and then tomorrow in Shelby County in Ohio. I feel like I'm doing the American election results when I start saying all these things. Well done,
you're very good at it, sir.
And then in the UK, November 4th, there's a UK demo day in London, hosted by the Thomas Pocklington Trust at the Pocklington Hub there. And then there will also be at Sight Village as well, Sight Village in the UK. That will be a day. It's not in front of me right now. Hang on a second. Hang on. Stay there. There it is. November 5th. Remember the 5th of November.
For the Glide demo.
Yes, for the Glide demo.
Held where is that in London?
That is in London this time round.
Okay.
So November 5th at the Kensington Town Hall in England. Yes, so do check that out there. And then there are many other events as well. We'll put the link to the full schedule of events coming up in our show notes. But I think that's fantastic.
I think it's going to be very popular, and that's what you need. I mean, both the company themselves, Glidance, need the feedback, and we need to see what this can actually do. I'm wondering, can you just turn up to these demos?
It does suggest you register. I guess that's so they have an idea of numbers.
Yes.
But I think if you would contact in advance, and I would imagine that in your local area, there will be conversation about this in local Facebook groups and online groups.
Yes.
But I mention it only because I think it's such a device that, I really do want to get hands-on with this at some point.
Yes.
And if it's coming to an area near you, it's the only chance you'll get to get hands-on with it unless you've put the money out today. A quick mention as well, I want to just, it's a bit of an announcement day today, I feel, but this is just, there's loads of stuff going on. Our good friend Brian Fischler every year puts on an event called Laugh for Sight. And it takes place in New York, and it's happening on Monday next week, October the 28th. There will be a silent auction. There'll be a comedy benefit as well. You can get involved. You can. They raise lots of money for charity. Brian has been part of this and running it for such a long time. He's had some amazing names involved as well. The late Gilbert Gottfried was there. Bill Barr, Adam Ferreira, I think, is there this year. They've had Jim Gaffigan, Jerry Seinfeld, Sarah Silverman.
Wow.
All the big names have been there in the past supporting this fantastic event. So I just wanted to give them a mention, because if you want to go, if you're in New York on October 28th, that's this coming Monday, get yourself some tickets, go along and laugh your bottom off. That's the radio-friendly version.
I was worried for a minute there. Well done. That's the events on Double Time.
There we go. That's me. I've done all my public announcements.
Well done, Brian, by the way. That's such a worthwhile event, and funny too.
Now, there's a story which, if I'm honest with you, I kind of feel we should hold this till tomorrow, but it's such a big story, I want to mention it today, because a lot of people are excited about it. And maybe this is one of these ones we'll continue tomorrow. Anthropic is a name you may not know if you've not been following the world of AI that closely, because it's one of those ones that kind of flies a little bit under the radar, but it's been doing great work. It's a competitor to OpenAI, Their product, like OpenAI's product, is ChatGPT. Anthropic's product is called Claude. Now, you might have heard of Claude, and that AI is the one that they're suggesting might be the one that becomes part of the Amazon Lady A ecosystem at some point. But we don't know that yet. We don't know, but we know that there's work going on in the background with them. Well, it's interesting because yesterday, Anthropic announced a new AI model, or an upgraded AI model of Claude, to do a range of things on the computer, including search the web, open applications, and input and use the keyboard and mouse. Yes, actions, not just telling you, write me this document or summarize this.
Yeah.
Actual actions. Now, there's a video I saw last night on YouTube, and it's not a public video. I mean, as in it's someone's own video, so we're not going to play it in. But I just want to say what was in it because it was incredible. This guy showing off using a simple prompt, which was, I want to buy tickets for an event, so go to this website, the specific website, and search for book tickets, search for dates, add to basket, and just writing this down in a prompt, and then the computer just goes off and does it. And there was a bit where it got stuck because there was a cookie banner popped up, and yes. He just in the prompt wrote accept the cookies, and it went off and accepted the cookies. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. Because, okay, look, maybe in and of itself, I think for us, we can navigate around the web to some degree, but there are things that we get stuck at. And if we could say, look, we know there's a button to do this, but we can't do it, or maybe the checkout process isn't accessible, but I can use this tool to do it on my behalf. That's interesting, right?
Oh, it sounds very familiar. Not to mention any names, but haven't we heard this before about the ability to perform actions to do what we need it to do? And what's up, Doc? Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking about Rabbit, by the way. I'm not just making some weird noises.
Yeah, the Rabbit R1. Yeah, of course. The big feature of that was that we'd be able to do exactly that, and it turned out to possibly not be a real feature that they had running. But this does sound impressive. Now, part of me thinks, you know what, you can do this already with certain software. We've spoken about this before, text expanders, auto hotkey. You can almost write scripts, automation in the Mac OS. You can write scripts to sort of do this for you. But there's some sort of syntax that you need to use. It's almost like coding. This sounds like a really easy way, almost a foolproof way to do the same thing.
Look, I wish we had more time. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. Definitely keen on your thoughts on this. Get in touch with us in all the usual ways. Here's how.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Now, a while ago, you might remember me talking about the Sonos Ace headphones. Remember, Shaun, I said I would do a full review.
Yes, a full review. I'm still holding my breath. Here we go.
You can let go of your breath now. You can breathe. As Tony Braxton, I believe, once said, you can breathe again. Yes, we're going to talk about the Sonos Ace headphones and my thoughts. And we're also going to be joined by a special guest, Elliot Stonhill, who's also tried out the Sonos Ace and wants to give us his take as well. And also to dig in a bit more on that Sonos app and where we are, because my Sonos Ace headphones have been returned. Not by me, but Sonos have said, you know what, Stephen? You had them a couple of weeks. You tried them out. Give us them back. So they've gone back to Sonos. So we're going to get more details on the app and how it's going, because it's a bit of a fluid situation with the Sonos app. We'll talk to Elliot about that in just a moment. But first, let's dig into the specs of the Sonos Ace and find out about what they're capable of. The release of the Sonos Ace headphones in June this year marked the company's entry into the premium over-ear noise-cancelling headphone market, and they're packed with a range of notable features. We'll get to my thoughts in a minute, but here's a breakdown focusing on specs, style, and functionality. The Ace headphones deliver Dolby Atmos with dynamic head tracking for spatial audio. They also support aptX Adaptive for high-resolution Bluetooth audio and USB-C lossless high-resolution audio, with an included USB-C to 3.5mm adapter for wired listening. In terms of battery life, you can expect up to 30 hours of playback with active noise cancellation turned on, and about 10 hours when using advanced features like TV audio swap with Sonos soundbars. They also feature a quick charge. A 3-minute charge will give you 3 hours of playback. Now, while Bluetooth is the primary mode of connection, there's limited Wi-Fi functionality, mainly for home theatre integration rather than multi-room Sonos syncing. In terms of style, the Sonos Ace design is minimal, yet premium for sure. It's available in black and soft white in terms of colour. The ear cups are comfortable, they are pleasant to wear, certainly not heavy on the head, but they don't fold, which some travellers might find inconvenient for portability. Now, while the headphones are sleek, the lack of a folding mechanism makes them a bit bulkier for storage. However, Sonos does offer a carry case to make transportation easier. So in terms of functionality, well, Sonos uses an 8-microphone array for effective active noise cancellation, doing rather well at blocking out steady noises like airplane engines or train noises, but slightly struggles with more unpredictable sounds like conversations. There's an aware mode that lets in ambient noise, but it lacks the fine-tuning controls that you see in competitors like Bose or Sony. As I mentioned, they do offer spatial audio and head tracking for an immersive experience, especially when connected to a Sonos Arc soundbar. That, unfortunately, was something I couldn't test, but here is how it's meant to work.
Start by adding Sonos Ace to your system using the Sonos app. From Settings, tap Add Headphones and follow the instructions to complete setup. Once your headphones are added to your system, tap Sonos Ace under your list of products, then tap Add TV Audio Swap. You can now send audio from your soundbar to your headphones by tapping Swap or by pressing and holding the content key on the right ear cup. We recommend being within 30 feet or about 9 meters of your soundbar for the best experience. You can dial up the immersion by turning on dynamic head tracking. This feature traces every slight movement of your head to keep you centered in the story.
Now, the Sonos app provides some controls, such as EQ adjustments and spatial audio toggling, but it does lack more granular ANC customizations offered by competitors. And then, of course, we get to the app itself. Now, you will likely have heard about the challenges blind users have faced in recent months following the rollout of the completely redesigned app, in part to allow these new Ace headphones to function. Now, despite there being a lot of issues with the app upon launch, and I mean a lot, and even Sonos themselves telling Double Tap that they took their eye off the ball with this one, users have started to see improvements in the past months, but still some bugs remain. As for the headphones themselves, pleasant to wear, very comfortable, but as for the sound, there's a bit of a way to go. So that's my initial thoughts, and we'll dig into all of this. Elliot Stonhill is with us here, joining us from merry old England. Hello to you, Elliot.
Hi, Stephen.
So you were listening into that, getting a sense of the specs and all of that. You've been playing with the Sonos Ace as well. What's your take been?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with actually a lot of what you said there. I do think they are quite comfortable to wear, and they're quite light, so not as heavy as something like the AirPods Max, which feel like you've got a rock on your head. And the audio swap thing is quite useful with the soundbar. I do probably use that mostly. Spatial audio, I don't know. Are you guys a fan of spatial audio?
No, personally,
no. Not really. No, not yet.
No, I mean,
I'll tell you what I love about spatial audio.
Really.
I like the button that says turn off spatial audio. That's my favourite button.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I sort of use them for a few days and then I turned that off in the settings because it was just sort of every time I sort of turned my head or something like that. I don't know. It's just not something that I particularly like.
No, I don't really get it, to be honest. It doesn't center me all the time at all. It just actually does quite the opposite. But I'm interested. What do you have? Are you in the Sonos ecosystem there, Elliot? What else do you have in your setup, if anything else?
Yeah, I've got quite a few Sonos speakers. I mean, my sort of home setup in the living room, I've got the sort of Arc soundbar and a sub and a couple of surrounds. And then I've got a few other Sonos speakers dotted about the house. So I am sort of quite invested in the system, which sort of I've been sort of disappointed with what's happened this year, although there have been improvements made since May.
And we have, of course, talked about these app issues in the past. I want to talk about that in a minute, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that Sonos are a company that do produce very high quality speakers. I mean, I remember the Sonos Play 5. The first time I ever sat down in front of one of those, I was literally blown away by the sound. It was just incredible, the quality of the audio that came out of these. And when you pair them together, if you get two Play 5s, wow. And, of course, with the Sonos Arc, I haven't had one of those, but I imagine that it is just incredible to listen to your whatever movie or whatever it might be, even, a soap opera on it, it would be just as good because it's able to pick out the audio. It's able to really push out high quality audio. Is that your general experience that, forget the app for a second, Sonos is good quality?
Definitely. I mean, the sound bar's obviously got Dolby Atmos in and all that, which is great. Unfortunately, when you're sort of watching a lot of things with audio description, you don't always get that Dolby Atmos soundtrack. So if you're watching something on Netflix or Disney Plus, it will then be sort of converted into sort of stereo PCM or something like that. I will say, actually, Apple TV, their own content, if you're watching with audio description, that still has Dolby Atmos, so that is very good.
Yeah, and if you watch it like we do, Elliot, on Sky TV, you even get lesser quality audio.
Well, yeah, let's not get into Sky. That's probably another conversation.
I know.
Yeah.
I continually, as you know, go on about it, and we both, I think, share very similar
we
views.
Don't want this to turn into a rant.
Back and, well, I've already done my rants on that. I'll come back.
I'd love to
we'll do more.
I've just got Sky Stream as well, so I'd love to sort of chat that and compare to Sky Q with you.
Well, that's right. And for people who don't realise this, you're the guy who sent in that email talking about that very point, right? The Sky Stream and the issues you were having. We'll come back to that another day because it's a topic we could come back to. But it all feeds in, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how good the audio is if the content you're watching isn't accessible or sounds terrible, kind of spoils it, right? And that is down to the broadcasters. But okay, let's focus on the audio. Let's focus on the Sonos speakers and the headphones, of course. Now, my experience of them was, first off, very premium product. I would say they felt a lot nicer in the hand and certainly nicer to wear, even more so than the infamous Sony XM5s that everyone raves about. I think they're fantastic headphones as well. But I think in terms of quality, I felt they felt richer. They felt nicer to wear. Did you feel that way? They do feel premium, as I was saying.
Yeah, I think they're very nice to wear. I'll tell you what I did quite like, only a very small thing. I don't know if you noticed on the sort of inside of the head cup, there was like a print L and a print R. So you can sort of, because it's not always obvious, I don't think, with headphones, which way around they're meant to go. So I thought that was quite a nice little touch.
And actual buttons as well. There was actual buttons to do things, which was kind of nice because normally it's all touchpad, and there was a touchpad as well. But, ultimately you had those buttons to be able to control things. That was nice.
Yeah, I thought the controls are very good because, like you said about the Sony ones there, that's sort of a touch control to do the volume and play pause. But talking about another headphones, and I'm sort of veering off a little bit with the Bose Ultra. I don't know if you've tried those. No. One thing I do love about the Bose headphones and Bose stuff in particular is when you turn it on, it tells you the battery level audibly. And I think that's a great little feature because sometimes you have to go around hunting on your phone or in the app to find out what the battery level is, whereas with the Bose and with the Sonys as well, I think you can press and hold a button and it tells you the volume level. So it's only a little thing, but I think especially when we perhaps can't see how charged it is, it's nice when you get a little bit of audible feedback.
Well, can I ask both of you actually, because I haven't really used the Sonos system in my house at least. So compared to your speaker setup, which you both say is absolutely fantastic, when you switched over to the headphones, did you have an equal, wow, this is amazing, I want to listen to all my albums again? Or was it a little bit of disappointment?
I'm going to let you go first, Elliot.
I would maybe say a little bit disappointed, yeah, Shaun. I wouldn't say I've sort of all the premium end headphones that I've tried, I wouldn't put that necessarily right at the top. For me, it was probably more the feature set and being able to swap the audio from the soundbar to the headphones by just sort of pressing and holding the button, very quick and easy to do. Because with headphones, it's not necessarily always easy to sort of Bluetooth pair to a TV, I don't think. With sort of the Apple TV, I think it is. But say if I'm watching if I dig out an old DVD or something or a Blu-ray, and then I've got to try and connect my headphones Bluetooth to the actual TV, it's quite difficult. Whereas obviously with these, it's just the press and hold of a button and the sound goes straight from the soundbar to the headphones. So I think that's probably the main selling point for me.
Steven?
I spent a lot of time in the settings trying to make the sound the way I thought it should sound. If I'm honest, I felt when I picked up the headphones, I pulled them out the box and I set them up, I felt that the premium quality in my hand ended when I put them on my head. The sound was just not there for me. It left me wanting a lot in terms of audio quality. Now, I think you have to be honest, whenever you buy a new pair of headphones, I remember buying the Sonys and thinking, in fact, I think Sony may have even sent them to me, but either way, I remember putting them on my head and thinking, they're okay. But there was something there. There was something that made me think, okay, they're not the AirPods Max, which is what I was coming from at the time. They're not the AirPods Max, but I'll give them a few days and, my head will adjust to them. My hearing will adjust to them because that's what happens whenever you buy these things. Whenever you buy a new pair of headphones, there's always an adjustment period. It never sounds quite right at the start. And then eventually it hits you. You think, okay, I've got it. I'm going to be honest, guys. I wore these every day for about a week and a half, for about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes at a time. And I just didn't get it. I didn't get that feeling of the great sound. I felt, strangely, although Sonos is all about, and of course we talk about spatial audio, and Sonos is all about Dolby Atmos and all of that, I felt that the stereo width was just too narrow. I thought the sound felt like it was coming straight at me. It didn't feel like it was around me the way I felt it was supposed to. And I checked all my settings and I made sure I'd updated firmware and did all the things I was meant to do and played around in the settings as much as I could. I just didn't feel the audio was as grand as I expected. And I took them off. I put on the Sonys and I thought, yeah, it's there. And then I put on my AirPods Max again and thought, yeah, it's really there. And of course, that's before we talk about the active noise cancellation. It's before we talk about anything else. I think the selling point of these is going to be the ecosystem. But if you're not in the ecosystem of Sonos, I'd be looking elsewhere.
So interesting to hear you say that. And your point there, Elliot, about the convenience of switching, from soundbar to headphones. How often are you going to actually use that sort of feature, though? Do you use that often? Are you wanting to watch things in your headphones rather than over the soundbar?
It would mainly be really if I'm watching something and I don't necessarily want the kids or my partner to hear where I'm watching. Nothing dodgy, by the way. If there's something with a lot of violence in it or swearing and stuff like that,
I get you.
Kids are walking around, I would say I mainly use it for that. Going back a little bit, Steve, how did you find the actual setup of them? Because I found that a little bit fiddly and a little bit time consuming. And actually, I did an update on them a couple of days ago, and that took quite a little while as well.
Yeah, the updates, I mean, I had the same with Sony XM5s. I remember the setup process took forever. I thought, why are these headphones needing such a huge update? And what is in this update that's going to take so long? So I felt the same, and I kind of expected it with the Sonos. I kind of expect it with most products you get nowadays. There is a bit of a lead time on, buying the product, getting it out of the box, trying it, and then having the whole update process. And I wanted to do that because I want to make sure I'm getting the very latest version of the software so I know I'm getting all the features I'm supposed to get. The setup took some time. I actually kind of expected more hassle because of all the issues that had been going on with the app. I expected the setup process to be challenging, and I didn't find it particularly challenging. I got through okay. Now, I keep screen recognition on my iPhone whenever I'm using a new app, especially that I don't know. What? Perhaps I shouldn't do that.
No.
I know, it's probably not.
I only use it in an emergency,
right?
I only use it in an emergency,
Well, I think it's a tool that's there to be used and allows, if there's an element for people who don't know, if there's an element on screen that can't be read by the screen reader, it will do its best. The iPhone will try to kind of understand what the element is. It could be a button, and if it's the home button, for example, it will say home, or looks like home or whatever. So you get the sense of what it's meant to be. I have that on, and I some might see it as a cheat mode. I think it's just a way of getting through issues quicker, right? So I didn't have a lot of issues with the setup process, but the download time for the updates, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It definitely, sort of saying when I did the update a couple of days ago, it sort of taking half an hour really to update, and you think, why is it taking this long?
Well, that's interesting when you mentioned setup problems. But are we talking download speed, or are we about to get into the conversation about the app and its accessibility?
Well, let's go there. Let's talk about it. Because I think at this point, the train left the station when the Sonos Ace went back in its box. Not necessarily the same box Sonos sent it in, but it went back to Sonos. There's a whole show. There is a whole show in the way we send products back that are not the way they're meant to go back. Just on recent experiences, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, I sent it back, and at that point, obviously, I wasn't able to use it. I have one other Sonos product, which I don't use very often, which is a Sonos Ray soundbar, which is one of their lower end, although I think a very good soundbar. Again, low end and Sonos doesn't really mean much, right? But strangely, when it comes to the headphones, that was the only product because it surprised me, Elliot. It surprised me. Because I kind of expected with how good Sonos are with audio, I thought they are going to nail it when it comes to headphones. To me, they just didn't. But where are we now with the app? Because it's been maybe a month now since we've been doing this testing. So what's been happening? Because I know there have been various updates, and I know that Sonos have pretty much gone, with a begging bowl to its consumers and customers saying, please don't give up on us. We're trying to fix this mess. They admit it's a mess. Where are we now?
Well, I was reading an article actually yesterday, and they were saying now that sort of 80% of the features are now back on the app that were sort of missing when they launched this in early May, and they're hoping the rest of them, well, they're saying the rest of them will be back up to 100% in the next few weeks. So you're talking a long time, aren't you? There, you're talking sort of 4 or 5 months really to get back up to where it was. I must say, in terms of accessibility now, I think it's pretty good. It's not perfect. I'm still sort of beta testing it, and I have sort of flagged up a few things which have then been fixed. So that's sort of nice when you sort of say, oh, this button's not labelled or stuff like that, and then a week or two later they see it's labelled again. I'm not sort of saying that's just me that's contacted them and saying that, but it's nice to see when things are fixed.
Yeah. I remember I kind of came away from it just at the point, I think they were bringing in headings for the elements, so you didn't have to go through every single element to get to what you were looking for. You could jump by a heading, which is a simple thing, but it does make a heck of a difference when it comes to navigating through huge amounts of content, especially as they now have done by putting everything on that home screen.
Yeah, headings is good now, and like you said, there's a lot cluttered on that home screen now, so I use headings a lot really to sort of navigate down there. The alarms, which I banged on a lot about last time, that's all fixed now. I mean, obviously it was a few months when people couldn't, if they had alarms set and they updated the app, they then couldn't turn those alarms off, which is obviously not great. But yeah, that's sort of all fixed now. So I think they are sort of getting there. But I would say it was rushed out, and maybe the headphones were rushed out a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's a good
I'm
point.
really surprised to hear both of you talking about this, because I know you've moved away from Sonos a bit, Steven, but I know you keep going on every time about how blown away you were by those Play 5s when you heard them. And
well, let me just say, I haven't moved away from Sonos. Sonos kind of moved away from me in the sense
that's true.
I've got Sonos kit, but it's old now, and I don't even know how supported that kit is anymore. Yes. So I've kind of moved away from it, and I feel I haven't made the decision. We've considered it. I mean, my wife and I have talked about if we we're eventually going to get the living room redone, and we possibly will put in a Sonos Arc soundbar in there at that time. And it's strange, despite, Elliot, as you know, all the tech over the years I've bought, the one thing I've never replaced since I moved into this house, and that's over 10 years ago, is my soundbar. Never replaced it. I've had a Bose soundbar. I bought it what was it called? Ideal Home Show in the UK. I remember buying it there, and I only bought it because I had gone to the show with intention, with money in my pocket to burn, and I was leaving and it was like 10 minutes to go before the doors closed. I haven't bought anything yet.
It's either that or a caravan. Okay. Yeah, I know the feeling.
The waterbed, I think, was the thing we bought the year before. But, my wife and I bought a waterbed, but we started drifting apart.
Hey!
Thank you. But no, we went back to the Bose stand and bought a soundbar, and we didn't have one. So we said, okay, let's get a soundbar. We just moved into the house. We got that, and we've never changed it since, which is weird, right? Because of all the tech I can change. But I don't know, it just works and it's good. But it does feel now like there's much better options out there. So I think my next soundbar would definitely be a Sonos. Whether I would go as far back into the ecosystem, I don't know. But it definitely is an excellent ecosystem for sure.
Why do you think that business with the app has that damaged Sonos? I'll ask both of you that.
Well, Elliot can tell, I think, more than that. You're using it every day.
I would say it probably has, and they've got other products which are due to come out. I think they're bringing out their own streaming box, and they've got a new soundbar coming out as well. I don't know if that's going to be this year or sort of early next year. But there has been a lot of customer dissatisfaction. There's sort of no doubt about that.
I think.
Sorry, and not just in our community either. I mean, mainstream wise, there was a lot of backlash.
No, there's been a lot of reporting of the app across the board, like you say. It's
yes,
like The Verge and people like that.
I don't know. I mean, I think about it from the point of view of any company that makes an attempt to do accessibility. And, in fairness to Sonos, for a long time, they did it very well. They've royally screwed it up here. But I wonder if that burn has left a mark, or will it fade away? And that's always the concern. Does the burn that comes with that kind of, especially negative press and all the rest of it, not just the mainstream press talking about how bad the app was, but even mainstream press talking about our perspectives on this. I think that either leaves a mark, in which case it kind of secures the future a little bit. But then I suppose the other, because you can say, well, yeah, but they could lose thread again. They could go off and not, the next app isn't accessible. But then I think to myself, what else is out there right now? What about other companies that have these kind of line of products? How good are they? And I think we don't hear about those in the blind community so much, because people aren't prepared to throw their money at this. They're not prepared to throw their money at a system on the basis that it might not work for them. So if you hear of a company doing well, there's a gravitational pull towards it. It's why we talk about Apple. It's why we talk about Android, in the way we do. It's why we talk about, Sonos to some degree, and any other product, frankly, which is accessible. If it's accessible, we will gravitate towards it. If it's not accessible or becomes inaccessible, we want to work with that company. Some people want to shout at them. There's great debate about how that advocacy was done and whether it was the right approach. But at the end of the day, it got a result. And that result was a more accessible and, considered comment from the CEO even of Sonos. So I think, I think it's difficult. I think I'm not as minded to say I would be unlikely to buy Sonos because of these transgressions with the app. I think I'd be tempted to say it's just something we have to be aware of going forward. I think we have to always be on our guard with all of these systems. The only company I ever feel a bit more relaxed with is Apple, honestly. So which is why I'm probably more likely to buy a ton of HomePods than Sonos gear. That's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, Shaun, are you still using your HomePods with your Apple TV? I mean, that's pretty decent, isn't it, when you got two of those paired in that system?
It is, yeah, absolutely. They sound great where they are at the minute. But it's kind of going back to what you said, Stephen. You're happy with your setup when you've got it and it sounds great. It's not until you hear something else where you think, oh, wow, that's the difference right there. Kind of going back to the Ace headphones again. There was something there. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but it was missing something, whether it was the stereo width or the stereo staging, or maybe it was muddy. Or, you don't know. But when you compare it, when you hear something else and you swap over to those other headphones, that's it. It's almost a feeling to audio sometimes. But yeah, the Sonos thing for me, it's difficult because any developer out there could, any update just kill accessibility, as you said, Stephen. So the fact that they're listening now and they're making a difference, as you said, Elliot, you're reporting back and you're seeing those fixes coming in. That's quite encouraging. Maybe this is a lesson that maybe makes Sonos more reliable in the future when it comes to accessibility, because they've had their fingers burnt in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to their sort of CEO, Patrick Spence, he sort of said that they wouldn't do this again. Now they would just sort of have, if they've got a new feature, they'll have it running alongside, and they shouldn't have just completely launched the app as a sort of complete refresh. Maybe should have been two apps and then sort of migrating over. So I don't think anyone would say, that they haven't learned the lessons. Hopefully they have. And things have improved sort of dramatically in the last few months. What happened shouldn't have happened. I don't think we can sort of argue against that. It was a complete mess up, not just for accessibility, but just for usability as a whole for anyone. But yeah, hopefully going forward now they have learned from that. And like just going back to what you were saying before as well, I mean, if you're sort of heavily already invested in the Sonos ecosystem, you want them to sort it out, because what other option you got? Sort of like flog all your old speakers and then trying to find something else to replace it, like you say, Stephen. It's not an easy thing to do.
Well, that's a great point, actually, because, from my perspective as someone who's kind of, toes in, to some degree, toes in the water, toes out, you're all in, right? You've spent a lot of money on this and you're not alone. So if you're in that position, you want to make sure, and that's where I guess the anger comes from for a lot of people as well. The idea that, I've spent all this money on this. Right. It's not a case of I might spend money on it. I'm a customer, I might spend money. It's I did spend money on it. It's not accessible to me. So this is a real issue. But in saying that, where we are today sounds good. In terms of the functionality, I mean, now the dust has settled a little bit. Are you finding that the functionality of the app is good? Is it behaving the way you expect? Is it doing things you need it to do? Because I remember hearing some people having issues with trying to get multiple speakers to play the same audio and all that. There was a lot of issues at the beginning. Are you still having a lot of those issues, or is that all resolved?
Not so much now. I think the app's all pretty responsive. It is a completely different layout to what it was before, so it does take a little bit of getting used to. But I would say actually some things are perhaps even better than the original app now. For example, if you're playing something on a speaker, there's a sort of volume bit right at the bottom of the screen. You can easily change that rather than sort of having to go into the speaker and change it. So there have been some improvements that way. And yeah, it's pretty much all accessible, and you can group your speakers and you can set your timers and all that sort of thing now.
So is it safe to recommend Sonos again?
I would say yes. I mean, hopefully at the next app
Elliot
update
says
doesn't
it's
completely
fine.
crash
Elliot.
it again.
That's an Elliot guarantee. Nothing to do with double tap.
Guarantee. It's not a double tap guarantee. That's an Elliot guarantee.
Well, let's go quickly before we finish. Let's go back to those headphones then. What's the price point on the Ace headphones?
So Elliot, what was it? 500? So it was $500, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 449 British pounds.
Right.
But I have seen they've sort of been on offer a few times with sort of £50 off or £70 off. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I don't think you would buy them if you weren't already in the Sonos ecosystem, like we said.
Yeah.
Whereas you might buy a pair of Sonys or a pair of Bose, even if you haven't got a Sony speaker or a Bose speaker.
That's
I think at that level of money, at that cost level, it's hard at the minute because it's very hard to recommend the AirPods Max to people because, the update this time around was just dreadful. It wasn't an update. It was a color change and an adapter change, and that was it, really. There was no new hardware in there at all, so it's very hard to recommend that. The Sony XM5s still stand out, and I think there's an XM6 out now. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I read that somewhere. Haven't been keeping track of the Sony ones, but I know that the XM5s are incredible headphones. And if you like light headphones, if weight is an issue, because when it comes to a lot of these new headphones, that's a consideration. The Sonys are the lightest out there. They are so comfortable to wear. You can wear them for hours. I remember sitting at my desk. I must have had them on for the best part of 3 or 4 hours, and listening to music, enjoying conversation as well in between with the active noise cancellation on. And it was excellent. It was a really enjoyable experience. Lots of people talk about how good they are. Yeah. And I would second that. I would certainly recommend those. And the price point is considerably less than any of the ones we're talking about. So better audio quality, excellent active noise cancellation. On the Sonos side with the active noise cancellation, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was groundbreaking, but then I didn't think it was terrible either. It just sat in that middle point of, yeah, it works, it's good. But, it was my point about consistent sounds was, it can get rid of sounds on a plane or a train. I was on a train with them, not a plane, but I had reviews and reading plenty of reviews of people who said they had issues with, or not issues, but actually it was fine on a plane. Yeah. And on a train it was the same because you've got that consistent sound. So it cut that out. But if you were sitting next to someone, say in a cafe, and there was any, someone drops a spoon or, there's a loud conversation going on, it's going to struggle with that. And so that was the only challenge I found. But then, in fairness, I'm talking specifically about the Sonos Ace. If you go to the other ones, I'd say only Apple's AirPods, and in particular the Pro 2s, the AirPods Pro 2, are any good at solving that issue. I think even the Sonys have had a few issues with that as well, with the cutting in of noises. It's a difficult one for these headphones. They're trying to react almost in real time. And some of them are good at it and some of them just don't quite have the power.
It is difficult, isn't it? Because it is personal preference as well with headphones, isn't it? Someone might really like a pair and then someone hates it. So it is difficult. I mean, I would agree with what you're saying about the Sonys. I mean, you can quite often pick them up for sort of 270, 280 sort of pounds, and you might even get a better deal with the sort of XM6 either out already or coming soon. So if I was pushed on a high-end headphones to recommend, I would probably go for the Sonys at the moment.
Wow. Well, that's very impressive. And what can I get for $20?
I think we've talked about this before, wasn't there? Remember those ones we talked about? I'll tell you, get the True Freeze. I'll get you those.
True Freeze, yes,
True
absolutely.
Freeze. They're very popular.
Good. Something for everyone.
That's right. or Anker, actually. Do you know what? Anker headphones, the Soundcore headphones are very good for the money. Sennheiser are very good for money if you're looking for low-cost headphones. And, when you say low-cost, I mean, you're losing out on features like active noise cancellation mostly. You're going to lose out on some of the kind of more smart features. Obviously you will get Bluetooth, but, I got to say, even in the low end, if you don't care about active noise cancellation, you can save a lot of money. If you're just going to be sitting at home listening to a book or listening to some music at home, you can spend good money. And, even in those environments, you don't even have to think about Bluetooth. You can get wired. That's one thing I did like about the Sonos Ace, having the cable in the box, unlike the Apple AirPods Max, where to go and buy a cable to do that, which was Lightning to 3.5, which good luck getting that now.
And with the Sonos, with the wired as well, you could use them if the battery had run out. So you could plug them into your iPhone with the USB-C and they would still work. So I thought that was quite neat, actually, yeah.
Very, very interesting. Elliot, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Elliot, and thank you to you for listening in every day as you do. We appreciate you being there, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.